Hello, my name is William, the Avid reader, and today I am reviewing The Lost World, written by Michael Crichton in 1995. So this is the sequel to Jurassic Park, but you could call it a bit of a loose sequel. I mean, it builds on some concepts of the previous book, but all the characters are new, and we get to learn a bunch of sci-fi stuff, science things, and we get to learn some history about dinosaurs as always, but Oasis is quite different because this happens on a different island. The previous book happened on Isla Sorna. On Isla Numera. This one book happens on Isla Sorna 6 years later. And the only characters that we've met before, or that we see again, are Ian Malcolm and Louis Dodgson. And Dodgson is the villain of this book this time. He was a minor bad guy in the previous book, a worker for Biosyn. Now he has his last chance to make money for Biosyn, so he becomes the main villain of the book. And we get to see some dinosaurs we've already seen. So we get to see the Tyrannosaur and the Velociraptor and the Compies, and we get to see how violent the Velociraptors are. And then it is later explained that the Velociraptors are so violent because they're not raised naturally. They hadn't have it. Even if they're one of the smartest animals in the world, they can create plans, which is very rare among animals. They're so violent because they were grown in a lab and put on an island. And even if they're put on this safari-like place, they didn't have parents. So they didn't have values instilled in them. So they're very chaotic and they attack each other, kind of. And they kill each other over food when it would be more practical to do anything. But they still coordinate plans. And we get to see the Compies in this book, but they're less important. And they don't successfully kill anyone. I mean, they bite a couple of characters. They bite Levin. Levin is the rich scientist who on the good guy's side, on the protagonist side, who creates the original plan of going to Isla Sorna, and he goes originally there with Costa Rican called Diego, and Diego gets killed by what we later learn is the Carnotaurus, and the Carnotaurus is one of the new dinosaurs we get to see in this book. And the thing very unique about it, so it's a carnivore, and it's smaller than a tyrannosaur, and it has these it has these horns on its head, but it performs camouflage as it moves. So they have this scene where they shine light on them back and forth, and then turn it off, turn it on, and it blends in with its environment, and we get to see a couple. And they control a certain territory, but they just control it during the night because of like the light, I think. So they control the territory where the village is. And Levin, he gets bitten by a Compy, and nothing much happens of it. And Dodgson himself, he gets bitten by a Compy, and he was on the point of falling asleep again, and he would have been devoured by them, but he has the strength to go and hide in some room, and he survives that way. So characters, we've got Ian Malcolm again, so he talks a bit crazy again, but this time he's more positive to coming to this island to study things, and he goes way through it. But he's the rescue party to bring back Richard Levin, since Levin is alone now since Diego's dead. And Levin was chased by raptors at a point, and he had to climb into a tree. But anyway, so the rescue party are Malcolm, Jack Thorne, and Jack Thorne has a mechanic business, so he creates a bunch of stuff for Levin to prepare for the island. and then he has his worker for him who builds, designs stuff. That's Eddie Carr. And they bring along by accident two kids, two very bright kids, Arby and Kelly. Arby is a younger and black kid who comes from a richer family. Kelly comes from a broken household, but she's older. And so Jack Thorne, he's very courageous. He accepts quickly that the kids are there. He saves people several times. He doesn't abandon the kids when Levin wants to. And then you've got Eddie Carr. Eddie Carr is has a heart, you could say, since at one point they get into the Tyrannosaur nest, because previously you've had the bad guys who went there. So the bad guys in squad is it's directed by Lewis Dodgson. Then you got his assistant Howard King. Howard King is a good person, even if he's on the villain side. I mean, he gets angry when Dodgson pushes Sarah Harding over. Yeah, Sarah. So there aren't a few characters, but they're all interconnected. So it gets a bit hell when you're talking about these characters, because so much happened in this Jurassic Park book. So much happens, even if there are barely any characters. Yeah, and King doesn't like that Dodgson tried to kill Harding by pushing her into the water. And then you've got Basilton, the PR guy, the public relations guy, George Basilton. He which has saved Biosyn. And they tried to take eggs to bring back. And they initially the first batch they successfully take from some herbivore, and they try to take it from the Tyrannosaur. So they use some machine. It's successful, but Dodgson accidentally pulls out the plug. They think that if they stand still, the Tyrannosaurs will not attack them, but that's a myth. So Basilton gets killed, and then Dodgson and King drive back in the car. They go their separate ways, and Howard King eventually gets devoured by raptors. And that's the thing he has in common with Carr. So they both have emotions, and they both get devoured by raptors. But anyway, so when the bad guys have left the nest, the Tyrannosaur nest, you've got Sarah Harding and some others, including Eddie Carr, who visit it, and the leg of one of the T-Rex babies have been broken since one of the bad guys stepped on it, and it bits. I think it bits Eddie Carr's boot, and Harding tells him to shoot it, but he brings it back instead to the trailer to cure the leg. And they successfully cure the leg, but the consequence to that is that several characters almost get killed. So in each of the book you've got a long sequence. First one is called the main road, and in this book I don't remember what it's called, but it's one that you've got the Tyrannosaurs pushing off this trailer and trying to push shit off a cliff. And he managed to successfully do that with one of them. But Thorne is a hero again and saves the day. And now Dodgson. Dodgson has already, we know he already has to try to kill Harding. We know he's responsible for the Jurassic Park disaster partially. And while Harding is trying to find the car to get the others off the island, Dodgson comes and they get into a fight, but then there's a Tyrannosaurus that come. They hide on the car, and Harding as revenge pushes him out with her legs, and he gets dragged off by the Tyrannosaur and gets eaten by the Tyrannosaur babies. So he gets what he deserves. None of the bad guys are killed in this book. interesting with the Jurassic Park books, not a lot of people get killed, very few characters. And that's a good thing, I think, because you know all of these characters. So you actually feel something when they die. It's not just number one, number two dies. No, they all got names and there aren't many, so when someone dies, it's a big deal. And you've got about one person that dies per iteration, or here it's called confederation. And it's funny because in the beginning of the book, Malcolm refers to that he has been brought back to another iteration. He's brought back to life because he almost died in the first book. And apart from the new animals, you've got the patchy Phyllosaurus, so it's got something above its head. It's a herbivore, and it's kind of violent. And then you get to see this interesting scene. So the people, they hide out in they think the points of safeties are 4 places. So they've got the trailers, the cars, the village, and then they got the hide, and they spend a lot of time there studying the animals. And at one point they see the velociraptors trying to hunt the herbivores near the river. And the apatosaurs, so they're these long-necked animals, dinosaurs, ceratops, I think. And then you've got the what are they called? Parapholophus. The other one was the Apache Phyllosaurus. You can confuse them easily, but you've got the Para and the Apache. Yeah, the Para and the Apatosaurus are in a group alliance where they defend each other and they use each other's strengths to balance each other out to protect against the velociraptors, and they successfully do it. And yeah, it's Isa Sorna, a bunch of sci-fi things, and Biosyn fades again. And at the beginning of the book, you learn that there's been government cover-up of this. The Costa Rican government, since they're heavily dependent on tourism. So what do? Anytime they find any evidence of dinosaur, they burn it down. So, but they don't find out about it. We don't ever know if they found out about the lost war in Isla Sorna. So, yeah. And interesting about this book, you get to see a map at the beginning with the different dinosaurs. So the dinosaurs are Tyrannosaurus rex, Mesosaurus, Pachysaurus, Procompsognathus, so that's Compys, Apatosaurus, Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Parasaurolophus, Velociraptor, and Carnotaurus. And you get to see a map of different things on the island of Isla Sorna. And this is classified as a more horror-driven book than the first one. It's more thrilling, but I disagree. This is a slightly shorter book, and it's a great book. It's not as good as Jurassic Park, but almost as good. The characters maybe... I would say actually, in some ways, the characters in this book are more dimensional. There are more dimensions of the book. The characters in the first book are more one-dimensional, and both of these books are plot-driven, but I think the characters may even be a bit better in this book, surprisingly. So, some things are better in this book, some things are worse, so... Yeah, this is... And then you keep in mind, when you read this book, and if you've seen the movie previously, as I've seen, you realize it has nothing to do with... it has very little connection to do. The characters are completely different. Sarah Harding is a lot tougher in this book than in the movie. Ian Malcolm is a lot more optimistic. And the reason for that he goes on the island is completely different. And you've got one instead of 2 kids. You see Dodgson in this book. It doesn't exist in the movie. So a lot of differences. But what I love about Jurassic Park, and you've got these 2 books. So you've got The Lost World and you've got Jurassic Park, and they take scenes from these 2 books and then they put them into the movie. So the scene, the Compy scene in the first book, that's in the second movie, and then you've got some scenes in these these books that are put into the Jurassic World movie. So similar. So the camouflage, I think, is what inspired the Indominus Rex. So yes, and of course a lot of sci-fi as usual, and we really get to understand why velociraptors are probably violent, but we get to see that a different side of the Tyrannosaurs are more fatherly and motherly, and we get to see that there is sexual dimorphism. So the mother is bigger than father, and yeah, and it's 6 years after the previous book. So this is a great book, and you can read this without reading the first book. So it's a bit better if you read the first book before, because it's written first. But anyway, this is a good standalone book. If you can read this on its own, even though you shouldn't. But yeah, it's a great book. It's almost as good as the previous one, or maybe even as good. So how high would I rank this book? Well, it's at least a 9. I'm not sure if it's as high as a 10. It depends. That's a stretch, I think, but it's a strong 9. And the last book was a 10, but yeah, this is a great science fiction book. And even if it's not maybe not as good as Jurassic Park, it's still a damn good book. It's one of the best I've read this year. So yeah, read these books. They're great. They're some of the best books I've ever read, best novels I've ever read. And this one is slightly shorter, but they're both about a bit more than 400 pages. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for this one, let's say. Written by Michael Crichton in 1995, The Lost World. So this was the Avid Reader's review. I hope you enjoyed this video. As you notice, I make even though I've pledged to make only 2 videos a month, I make a couple of weeks, 2-3 videos a week. And why is that? Because well, summer break has come along, and you may notice that I don't wear a shirt over this. So when you have summer, you can read a lot more, so you can expect a lot of reviews during this period, but it will eventually slow down when the school comes back on. But yeah, this was the Avid Reader's review. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time.